What if you gave it everything you've got? No more excuses, no more hesitation, just pure, relentless effort. In Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins challenges us to confront the question that can change everything. What if? What if you stopped holding back and pushed past your limits? What if you embraced every challenge, failure, and obstacle as an opportunity to grow? In this chapter, Goggins shares how to turn regret into motivation and use the what if mindset to propel yourself toward greatness. It's time to stop wondering and start doing, because the only thing standing between you and your potential is action. Chapter 1. Childhood, the Impossible Task. David Goggins' childhood was a crucible of hardship, a relentless storm of abuse, poverty, and fear. Growing up in an environment that most would describe as a living nightmare, Goggins faced challenges that would leave many feeling defeated before life had even begun. Yet, instead of allowing his circumstances to define him, he found a way to transform his pain into purpose. This transformation didn't happen overnight, nor was it the result of a singular moment of clarity. It was a gradual, grueling process of self-discovery and mental fortitude, a testament to the idea that adversity can be the foundation for greatness. For Goggins, time was not an ally during his childhood. Living under the tyranny of an abusive father, his days were consumed by fear and exhaustion. The hours that should have been spent on schoolwork or play were instead devoted to unpaid labor, running his father's skating rink, and trying to survive the emotional scars of the abuse. Productivity, in this context, was survival, a grim necessity rather than a choice. Yet, even in these bleak moments, Goggins learned something critical. Every hour could be reclaimed, repurposed, and redirected toward a goal. This lesson resonates deeply for anyone struggling with procrastination or feeling overwhelmed by the demands of life. Goggins' story teaches us that time management isn't just about schedules and to-do lists, it's about mindset. It's about deciding, moment by moment, how to allocate your energy and focus, even in the face of immense challenges. One of the most powerful lessons from Goggins' early years is that productivity often begins with a brutally honest assessment of your situation. It's easy to blame external circumstances for our lack of progress, but as Goggins emphasizes, the first step toward change is taking full ownership of your time and actions, no matter how dire your situation seems. To adopt this mindset, start by confronting your distractions head-on. Goggins speaks candidly about his struggles with schoolwork, describing how he often fell behind, not because he lacked intelligence, but because his chaotic environment made it difficult to focus. He didn't have the luxury of a quiet place to study or a support system to help him succeed. Instead of resigning himself to failure, he found ways to carve out time for improvement, even if it was just a few stolen minutes. The lesson here is clear: don't wait for ideal conditions. If you're waiting for the perfect time to start a project or pursue a goal, you'll be waiting forever. Productivity thrives in imperfect conditions when you decide to make the most of what you have. Goggins also introduces a key strategy for reclaiming time and building momentum: setting micro goals. In the chaos of his childhood, he couldn't overhaul his life overnight, but he could focus on small, achievable steps that moved him closer to his goals. This approach is particularly effective for combating procrastination. When faced with a daunting task, it's easy to freeze, overwhelmed by the sheer scope of what needs to be done. But by breaking the task into smaller, manageable pieces, you create a sense of progress that fuels further action. For instance, instead of telling yourself, "I need to write an entire report," start with a single sentence or outline the key points. Once you begin, momentum builds, and what once felt impossible becomes achievable. Another cornerstone of Goggins' philosophy is accountability. As a child, he didn't have anyone to push him or hold him accountable for his actions. Instead, he developed his own system, one that he later refined into what he calls the accountability mirror. While this tool is explored more deeply in a later chapter, its roots can be traced back to his early realization that no one was coming to save him. If he wanted a better future, he had to take responsibility for creating it. This principle is incredibly relevant for anyone seeking to improve their time management skills. When you're the one holding yourself accountable, there's no room for excuses or procrastination. Each day becomes an opportunity to prove to yourself that you can stay disciplined and committed even when it's difficult. But perhaps the most transformative lesson from Goggins' childhood is his perspective on pain. Most of us view pain, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, as something to be avoided. We procrastinate not because the tasks themselves are unbearable, but because we dread the discomfort they bring. Goggins flips this narrative on its head. For him, pain became a motivator, a sign that he was pushing himself beyond his limits and growing stronger as a result. This mindset shift is a game changer for anyone struggling with procrastination or a lack of productivity. Instead of fearing discomfort, lean into it. Use it as a signal that you're on the right path, moving closer to your goals. One practical way to implement this mindset is through this pain management technique. When you feel resistance to starting a task, take a moment to identify the source of your discomfort. Is it fear of failure? A lack of clarity about where to begin? Once you've pinpointed the issue, address it head-on. For example, if you're procrastinating because a task feels too complex, spend 5 minutes simplifying it. Break it into smaller steps, eliminate unnecessary components, and focus on the core objective. By addressing the root cause of your resistance, you make it easier to take action, even in the face of discomfort. Ultimately, Goggins' childhood serves as a powerful reminder that time is one of our most precious resources, and how we choose to spend it shapes our future. Even in the most challenging circumstances, there are opportunities to reclaim time, refocus energy, and make progress. Whether you're facing personal struggles, professional deadlines, or simply the everyday demands of life, the principles Goggins embodies, ownership, micro-goals, accountability, and embracing discomfort, provide a roadmap for achieving more with the time you have. In his own words, you don't have to be a victim of your circumstances. This belief isn't just a motivational slogan, it's a call to action, a challenge to take control of your life, one decision at a time. As we continue exploring Goggins' journey, this foundational lesson will echo through every chapter. No matter where you start, you have the power to create a better future if you're willing to do the work. Chapter 2. Truth Hurts, Call Out the Real You. Accountability Mirror, as a brutal yet transformative exercise in self-awareness and accountability, a tool that forces you to confront your truths without sugarcoating them. It's not about self-loathing but about stripping away the excuses, denials, and half-truths we often tell ourselves. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not to adjust your hair or check your outfit, but to face your flaws head-on, writing them out on sticky notes and placing them where you can't avoid them. This raw, unfiltered honesty is what Goggins advocates, and it's a practice that can revolutionize how you approach time management, productivity, and even procrastination. At its core, the accountability mirror is about ownership. How often do we blame external factors for our inefficiencies? The job is too demanding, there aren't enough hours in the day, or we're just not in the mood to get things done. Goggins challenges that narrative by insisting that real change starts when you take an unflinching look at yourself. For example, if you're consistently running late on deadlines, it's not just because the task was too hard or time was short. It's about your choices, how you spent the hours leading up to the deadline, whether you planned effectively, or if you gave in to distractions. The mirror doesn't lie, it reflects the reality of your actions or lack thereof. This principle can be applied directly to productivity. Start by identifying the habits or mindsets that are holding you back. Are you constantly scrolling through social media instead of working on your goals? Write it down. I waste hours on my phone instead of being productive. Seeing this truth in your own handwriting has a way of cutting through the noise of excuses. It's uncomfortable, yes, but that discomfort is necessary. It's a signal that something needs to change. Goggins didn't stop at identifying his flaws, he paired each one with an actionable goal. If he felt unprepared for a task, he didn't wallow in self-pity. He wrote down exactly what he needed to do to fix it. The sticky note system became a practical roadmap for change. You can adapt this to your own life by using sticky notes or even a digital equivalent. Break down your goals into specific, measurable actions and place them somewhere you'll see them every day. For instance, instead of writing, be more productive, right? Spend 30 minutes every morning planning my day. Clarity is key to action. This method is especially effective for combating procrastination. Procrastination often stems from vague, overwhelming tasks that feel impossible to start. By breaking these tasks into smaller, concrete steps, you reduce the mental barrier to getting started. If you're avoiding a big project, your sticky note might read, "Spend 15 minutes outlining the first section." Once you start, momentum builds, and what once seemed insurmountable becomes manageable. Another critical element of the accountability mirror is the emotional weight it carries. Goggins emphasizes that self-improvement isn't just about ticking boxes on a to-do list. It's about genuinely confronting the parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. This process isn't easy. It requires humility and courage. But it's in this discomfort that growth happens. When you acknowledge a habit like procrastination, you're not just admitting that you waste time, you're recognizing the deeper fears or insecurities driving that behavior. Maybe you procrastinate because you fear failure or don't believe in your abilities. The mirror forces you to face those truths, and in doing so, it gives you the power to change them. Goggins' approach also highlights the importance of consistency. It's not enough to use the mirror once and then move on. It's a daily practice. Each day, he would stand in front of that mirror, review his notes, and assess his progress. This habit created a continuous feedback loop, allowing him to adjust his actions and stay aligned with his goals. You can incorporate this into your routine by dedicating a few minutes each evening to reflect on your day. Ask yourself, did I accomplish what I set out to do? Why? What can I do differently tomorrow? This simple practice can dramatically improve your productivity by keeping you focused and accountable. One of the most powerful aspects of the accountability mirror is that it eliminates excuses. When you're honest with yourself about your flaws and take responsibility for them, you no longer have the luxury of blaming others or external circumstances. This mindset shift is crucial for time management. Instead of saying, "I didn't have time," you begin to see that you didn't make time. Instead of saying, "I'm just not good at this," you start thinking about how you can improve. It's a shift from a victim mentality to one of empowerment. The accountability mirror also fosters a deeper sense of purpose. By identifying your flaws and setting actionable goals, you create a clear path forward. This clarity makes it easier to prioritize your time and energy, focusing on what truly matters. For example, if one of your sticky notes says, "I spend too much time on low-priority tasks," you can use that insight to restructure your schedule. Apply the Pareto principle, focusing 80% of your effort on the 20% of tasks that yield the greatest results. This approach ensures that your time is spent on activities that align with your goals, rather than being wasted on distractions or busy work. Finally, the accountability mirror is a tool for resilience. Life is unpredictable, and setbacks are inevitable. But when you've cultivated the habit of honest self-assessment, you're better equipped to navigate those challenges. Instead of being derailed by failure, you can use it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Each sticky note becomes a reminder that you have the power to change one action at a time. This resilience is what separates those who merely dream of success from those who achieve it. The truth hurts, as Goggins says, but it's also liberating. When you face your flaws and own them, you reclaim control over your life. The accountability mirror is more than a technique. It's a commitment to living with integrity and purpose, a daily practice that pushes you to be better than you were yesterday. In the relentless pursuit of self-improvement, it all starts with a single, honest look in the mirror. Chapter 3: The Worst Thing That Never Happened. The worst thing that never happened is a testament to the power of setting ambitious goals and relentlessly pursuing them, even when faced with failure. Life has a way of throwing roadblocks in your path, but what separates those who succeed from those who don't is the ability to adapt, persevere, and take action, no matter the odds. Goggins embodies this philosophy as he shares his struggle to achieve his dream of becoming a Navy SEAL. Despite failing multiple times, he refused to let those setbacks define him. Instead, he used them as stepping stones, proving that failure, when approached with the right mindset, can be a powerful teacher. When it comes to time management and productivity, Goggins' story offers a profound lesson. Goals need to be big enough to scare you, but also precise enough to guide your actions. Too often, we set vague goals like get in shape or be successful, which lack the clarity needed to spark meaningful action. Goggins didn't just dream about being fit or disciplined. He set his sights on becoming one of the most elite warriors on the planet. This specificity gave him a clear target, and every decision he made was measured against whether it brought him closer to that goal or pushed him further away. But even with a clear goal, the path wasn't smooth. Goggins failed his first attempts at the ASVAB test required to join the Air Force, and later, he faced physical and mental hurdles in his pursuit of becoming a SEAL. This is where the key lesson of persistence comes into play. Productivity isn't about never failing. It's about learning from those failures and recalibrating your approach. Each time Goggins hit a wall, he didn't give up. Instead, he analyzed what went wrong, adjusted his strategy, and tried again. This approach can be applied to any goal you set for yourself. If you're working on a major project and miss a deadline, for instance, don't throw in the towel. Review what caused the delay, refine your workflow, and keep moving forward. One of the most striking aspects of Goggins' story is his ability to turn failures into motivation. Many of us see failure as a reason to stop trying, but Goggins flipped that script. He saw each setback as proof that he was pushing his limits. This mindset shift is critical for overcoming procrastination. Procrastination often stems from fear of failing, fear of judgment, or even fear of success. But when you embrace failure as an inevitable and even necessary part of growth, it loses its power over you. Instead of avoiding tasks because they seem too difficult, you start to see them as opportunities to learn and improve. Goggins also emphasizes the importance of taking consistent action, no matter how small the steps may seem. Progress is rarely linear, and massive goals can feel overwhelming if you try to tackle them all at once. Breaking them down into manageable pieces is key. For Goggins, this meant focusing on one hurdle at a time, first passing the ASVAB, then improving his physical fitness, then tackling the grueling BUD/S training required for SEAL candidates. You can use a similar approach in your own life by dividing your goals into smaller, actionable tasks. If your goal is to write a book, for instance, start by setting a daily word count goal rather than worrying about finishing the entire manuscript. Each small victory builds momentum, making the larger goal feel more achievable. Another critical takeaway from Goggins' story is the importance of discipline in achieving your goals. Motivation is fleeting. It's easy to feel inspired when you're setting your goals, but that initial excitement often fades when the work begins. Discipline, on the other hand, is what keeps you going when motivation runs out. Goggins didn't feel motivated every day to train, study, or push through the pain, but he did it anyway because he was committed to his goal. This level of commitment requires you to prioritize your time and eliminate distractions. If you're serious about achieving your goals, you need to be honest about how you're spending your time and make adjustments accordingly. This might mean waking up earlier, cutting back on social media, or saying no to activities that don't align with your priorities. Goggins' journey also highlights the role of mental toughness in overcoming obstacles. Physical challenges like SEAL training are grueling, but the real battle is often in your mind. Goggins had to fight through self-doubt, fear, and the temptation to quit. He developed a mental resilience that allowed him to keep going even when his body wanted to give up. This mental toughness is a skill that can be cultivated through practice. Start by challenging yourself to step outside your comfort zone regularly. Whether it's speaking up in a meeting, trying a new workout routine, or tackling a difficult project, each time you push past your perceived limits, you strengthen your ability to handle adversity. Finally, Goggins reminds us that setbacks are temporary, but the lessons you learn from them can last a lifetime. Each time he failed, he gained new insights about his weaknesses and how to overcome them. This mindset of continuous improvement is crucial for productivity. Instead of aiming for perfection, aim for progress. Each day is an opportunity to get a little better than you were yesterday. Celebrate those small wins, but also take time to reflect on what didn't go well and how you can improve. This cycle of action, reflection, and adjustment is the foundation of sustained growth and success. Through his relentless pursuit of his goals, Goggins demonstrates that the worst thing that can happen isn't failure, it's never trying in the first place. The real tragedy isn't falling short of your goal, it's letting fear or procrastination stop you from taking action at all. When you commit to pushing forward, no matter how many times you fall, You prove to yourself that you are capable of far more than you ever imagined. In the end, success isn't just about reaching the finish line. It's about who you become in the process. Chapter 4. Taking Souls. The concept of taking souls, a strategy that isn't just about outperforming others. It's about shattering expectations and proving what unstoppable truly looks like. At its core, this philosophy is a mindset shift, a call to action that pushes you beyond limits you once thought were immovable. It's not about competing with others in a superficial sense. It's about reaching into the depths of your endurance, mentally and physically, and showing not just the doubters, but yourself what's possible. This philosophy can fundamentally transform how you approach time management, productivity, and the inevitable specter of procrastination. Imagine you're in a scenario where you're mentally drained, physically exhausted, and the easiest option is to quit. Maybe it's a deadline at work, a fitness goal, or a personal project that feels like it's taking more than you can give. Goggins argues that this is the exact moment when you need to dig deeper and find that extra gear. For him, taking souls often meant outworking those who underestimated him, particularly during grueling Navy SEAL training. When others slowed down during punishing physical drills, he pushed harder. This wasn't just to survive. It was a deliberate effort to send a message: I'm here, and I'm not breaking. Applying this mindset to productivity starts with flipping how you view competition. The competition isn't just other people, it's also the part of you that wants to procrastinate, the voice that says, this is too hard, or I'll do it tomorrow. Outworking the competition in this sense means defeating your own excuses. Let's say you've been putting off a big project because it feels overwhelming. Instead of surrendering to that inner resistance, break the task into smaller, actionable steps. Then commit to finishing the first step no matter how unmotivated you feel. Once you complete that step, momentum builds, and suddenly the task that felt impossible starts to shrink in size. That's taking souls. It's showing the part of you that doubts your ability that it has no power. Procrastination thrives on comfort. It whispers that it's okay to take a break now because there's plenty of time later. Goggins' approach annihilates that mindset. He argues that discomfort is where real growth happens, and taking souls is essentially about embracing that discomfort until it becomes your ally. One way to practice this is by turning procrastination into a challenge. If you find yourself avoiding a task, pause and reframe it. Instead of thinking, this is too hard, ask yourself, how can I use this as an opportunity to push myself further than I thought I could go? Then, set a timer for 30 minutes and dive into the work. This small shift trains your brain to associate effort with triumph rather than dread. Time management, too, becomes sharper when viewed through the lens of taking souls. The strategy isn't about adding more hours to your day, but about maximizing the ones you already have. Goggins teaches us that even when you're exhausted, there's usually more capacity left in you than you realize. This is what he calls tapping into the 40% rule, the idea that when you think you've reached your limit, you're really only at 40% of what you're capable of. If you're struggling with time management, start by identifying areas where you're leaving effort on the table. Are you spending too much time scrolling through social media or avoiding the hard tasks on your to-do list? Instead of falling into those traps, challenge yourself to spend an extra hour on your most critical task of the day. That extra hour, consistently applied, can be the difference between mediocrity and mastery. Goggins also emphasizes the psychological power of outperforming expectations, not just for yourself but in the eyes of those who doubt you. Whether it's a boss who underestimates your abilities, a peer who doesn't believe in your vision, or even your own inner critic, there's a unique energy that comes from proving doubters wrong. This isn't about seeking validation, it's about reclaiming your narrative. For instance, if someone thinks you're not capable of meeting a tight deadline, deliver the project ahead of schedule and at a higher standard than they expected. That's how you take souls in a professional setting. It's a silent, yet powerful declaration of your resilience and capability. This philosophy also applies to physical and mental endurance. Goggins shares moments during SEAL training when others started breaking under the pressure. Instead of just surviving the grueling conditions, he chose to excel in them, finding a way to smile while others faltered. For your own life, This might mean pushing through when you're working on a side hustle after a long day at your regular job, or staying consistent with a fitness regimen when you're already drained from other commitments. It's about not just surviving the grind, but thriving in it. The lesson here isn't about being superhuman. It's about recognizing that you're capable of far more than you think. Each time you push past what you thought was your limit, you redefine what's possible for yourself. This doesn't mean ignoring the need for rest or balance. It means that when the chips are down, you don't let exhaustion or doubt dictate your actions. You choose to act anyway, to push anyway, and to deliver anyway. That choice becomes a habit, and that habit builds unshakable confidence. Ultimately, taking souls is about showing up fully even when every fiber of your being wants to quit. It's about finding your edge and proving to yourself and the world that you're willing to go beyond it. Whether it's outworking competitors, defeating procrastination, or maximizing your productivity, the philosophy reminds us that we're capable of incredible things when we refuse to stop. It's not about talent or luck. It's about effort, discipline, and the willingness to dig deeper when it matters most. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a statement that you won't be beaten. And with that mindset, you won't be. Chapter 5: Armored Mind. The concept of an armored mind, which revolves around cultivating mental toughness by embracing discomfort and turning challenges into opportunities for growth. This isn't a one-time decision. It's a deliberate, ongoing process of exposing yourself to difficulties, learning from failure, and growing stronger with each experience. For Goggins, mental toughness isn't about avoiding pain or challenges. It's about using them as tools to build resilience. It's about creating what he calls a calloused mind, much like how repeated physical labor hardens the skin on your hands. By consistently stepping into situations that test your limits, you can fortify your mind against procrastination, self-doubt, and the allure of comfort. Comfort, Goggins explains, is the enemy of progress. It's the warm, inviting space that keeps you from pursuing your goals and realizing your potential. We often associate comfort with rest, which is necessary, but too much comfort creates stagnation. Picture this: you have an important project due in a few weeks, and you tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, and suddenly there's a new excuse: I'm too tired, or it's not urgent yet. Days turn into weeks, and the task looms larger and more daunting with each passing moment. This cycle of procrastination isn't just about laziness. It's about seeking comfort over discomfort. Goggins argues that the only way to break this cycle is to face discomfort head-on and transform it into a tool for growth. Building an armored mind begins with small, deliberate acts of discipline. For example, if you're struggling with time management, start by identifying the tasks you've been avoiding the most. These are usually the ones that will make the biggest impact on your progress. Commit to tackling one of these tasks first thing in the morning, before distractions and excuses have a chance to derail you. This approach not only builds momentum but also strengthens your mental toughness. Each time you choose to take action despite discomfort, you're callousing your mind and proving to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought. Goggins often recalls his grueling training experiences, where every step forward felt like a battle against his own mind. For most people, moments of pain or difficulty are signals to stop. For Goggins, they were opportunities to keep going and prove his resilience. This philosophy can be applied to productivity and goal setting. Let's say you're working on a long-term project, like writing a book or building a business. There will inevitably be moments when progress feels slow and the finish line seems impossibly far away. In these moments, remind yourself that pushing through discomfort isn't just about completing the task, it's about who you're becoming in the process. Every hour spent working when you'd rather quit is another layer of armor added to your mind. Procrastination is a subtle enemy that thrives on a lack of mental toughness. It whispers that it's okay to wait, that you'll do better work when you're in the mood. But the truth is, waiting for motivation is a trap. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline and mental toughness are what carry you through when motivation fades. One practical way to counteract procrastination is to adopt the 5-minute rule. If you're dreading a task, commit to working on it for just 5 minutes. Often, the hardest part is starting, and once you're engaged, you'll find it easier to keep going. This simple habit trains your brain to associate action with progress, rather than letting fear or discomfort dictate your behavior. Time management, too, becomes more effective when you embrace the principles of an armored mind. Start by recognizing that every hour you spend is an investment in your future self. If you choose to spend that time scrolling through social media or binge-watching TV, you're choosing comfort over growth. Instead, deliberately schedule periods of focused work, followed by short breaks. This approach, known as the Pomodoro technique, allows you to build mental endurance in manageable increments. Over time, these increments add up, and you'll find yourself accomplishing more than you thought possible. One of the most transformative aspects of developing mental toughness is the realization that pain and discomfort are temporary. When Goggins faced grueling physical challenges like running ultramarathons, he reminded himself that the pain would eventually pass, but the sense of accomplishment would last forever. This mindset can be applied to any area of life. If you're struggling to meet a deadline, feeling overwhelmed by responsibilities, or doubting your ability to achieve a goal, remind yourself that these feelings are fleeting. What matters is pushing through them and staying committed to the process. The armored mind also involves reframing failure as a stepping stone rather than a setback. Goggins faced countless failures on his journey, from dropping out of training programs to struggling with his weight and health. But instead of letting these failures define him, he used them as fuel to improve. This mindset is invaluable when it comes to productivity. If you miss a deadline or fall short of a goal, don't waste time beating yourself up. Instead, analyze what went wrong, adjust your approach, and try again. Each failure is an opportunity to learn and grow, not a reason to quit. Ultimately, developing an armored mind requires a shift in perspective. It's about seeing challenges as opportunities, discomfort as a tool, and failure as a teacher. This doesn't mean you won't feel fear, doubt, or frustration along the way. It means you'll learn to move forward despite them, knowing that each step brings you closer to the person you want to become. Every time you face a difficult task or an obstacle that feels insurmountable, remind yourself of Goggins' philosophy. Comfort is the enemy. Embrace the discomfort, lean into the pain, and use it to build an unbreakable mindset. Chapter 6. It's not about a trophy. Reflection on his ultramarathon experiences reveals a profound truth. Life isn't about collecting trophies or accolades. It's about finding and mastering your purpose. For Goggins, running these grueling races wasn't about standing on a podium or earning applause. It was about testing the boundaries of his physical and mental limits. This perspective is a powerful reminder that chasing external validation can only take you so far. Real growth, the kind that lasts, comes from internal victories, conquering your fears, overcoming procrastination, and staying disciplined even when no one is watching. In a world that constantly glorifies recognition, it's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of applause. Social media amplifies this with its endless feedback loops of likes, comments, and shares. But here's the truth: validation from others is fleeting. It feels good in the moment, but rarely provides lasting satisfaction. Goggins' story forces us to confront an uncomfortable but necessary question. Are we working for the applause, or are we working for ourselves? When you strip away the trophies, the compliments, and the spotlight, what's left is your purpose, and that's what truly matters. Purpose is the antidote to procrastination. When you're clear about why you're doing something, it's easier to push through discomfort and stay focused. Think about the tasks you've been putting off. Maybe it's starting a workout routine, launching a side project, or committing to a study schedule. Ask yourself, why does this matter to me? When your goals are tied to a deep sense of purpose, they stop feeling like chores and start feeling like steps toward becoming the person you want to be. For Goggins, every race he ran wasn't about the medal at the finish line, but about proving to himself that he could endure more than he thought possible. Time management becomes more effective when it's rooted in purpose. Instead of trying to squeeze productivity out of every hour, shift your focus to the quality of your time. Are you spending your energy on tasks that align with your values and goals, or are you getting sidetracked by distractions and short-term gratification? Goggins' ultramarathon mindset can serve as a guide here. Approach your day like a long race. Pace yourself, but stay consistent. Know when to push harder and when to regroup, but always keep your eyes on the end goal. Purpose-driven work isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Goggins' philosophy challenges the idea that rewards define success. Take a moment to reflect on the goals you've set for yourself. Are they shaped by what others expect of you, or do they reflect your true ambitions? If you're working towards something just to gain recognition, you're more likely to burn out or lose motivation when the applause fades. On the other hand, if your efforts are tied to personal growth and self-discipline, the process itself becomes rewarding. This shift in mindset can help you approach tasks with a sense of determination, even when they feel mundane or overwhelming. Overcoming procrastination requires a similar perspective shift. We often procrastinate because the immediate discomfort of starting outweighs the distant reward of finishing. But when your focus is on personal mastery rather than external recognition, the equation changes. Starting becomes less about avoiding discomfort and more about embracing the opportunity to grow. Goggins didn't run ultramarathons because they were easy or enjoyable. He ran them because they forced him to confront his weaknesses and build resilience. In the same way, tackling your most daunting tasks, whether it's writing a report, preparing for an exam, or learning a new skill, can become an act of self-improvement rather than a means to an end. Self-discipline is at the heart of this philosophy. Goggins emphasizes that discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you cultivate through repeated effort. Each time you choose to act in alignment with your purpose, you strengthen your ability to resist distractions and stay on track. This is where the real reward lies, not in the external outcome, but in the inner growth that comes from staying committed. It's the satisfaction of knowing you pushed yourself, even when it would have been easier to quit. The idea of purpose over recognition also applies to how we measure success. Goggins reminds us that success isn't about how others perceive us, it's about how we perceive ourselves. If you're constantly comparing your progress to someone else's, you're setting yourself up for frustration. Instead, focus on your own journey. Celebrate the small wins, completing a task, learning something new, or simply showing up. These victories might not come with a trophy, but they build the foundation for long-term success. Goggins' ultramarathon experiences illustrate another critical point. Progress often happens in the shadows, away from the spotlight. The long training runs, the late-night workouts, the moments of doubt and pain, these are the times when character is built. It's a reminder that the work you do when no one is watching is often the most important. Whether it's staying up late to finish a project or waking up early to plan your day, these quiet moments of effort are what set you apart. Ultimately, the lesson from this chapter is clear. Don't let the pursuit of recognition overshadow the pursuit of purpose. The trophies and accolades might feel satisfying in the moment, but they won't sustain you in the long run. What will sustain you is the knowledge that you've given your best, not for the applause of others, but for your own growth and fulfillment. When you approach life with this mindset, every challenge becomes an opportunity, every setback becomes a lesson, and every step forward becomes a victory worth celebrating. Chapter 7. The Most Powerful Weapon. In Chapter 7 of Can't Hurt Me, emphasizes a critical lesson for anyone seeking to achieve their goals or overcome obstacles. The mind is your most powerful weapon. It's not just about physical strength or raw talent. It's about how you train and control your thoughts. The difference between success and failure often boils down to mental toughness, and Goggins has spent years refining his mind to work for him instead of against him. The key to unlocking this power lies in mastering visualization and positive reinforcement, two strategies Goggins uses to conquer seemingly insurmountable challenges. Visualization is a powerful tool that many high performers, from athletes to CEOs, swear by. It's the act of mentally rehearsing a task or goal before you even begin. Goggins uses this technique to prepare himself for the physical and mental demands of his ultra-endurance events. Before running a race or taking on a difficult challenge, he visualizes himself crossing the finish line, overcoming obstacles, and pushing through the pain. This process doesn't just involve imagining the success but also visualizing the struggle. He sees himself enduring the discomfort, the fatigue, and the mental battles. By doing this, Goggins creates a mental blueprint that helps him stay focused and calm when those challenges arise. He's not blindsided by the pain or the difficulties because he has already experienced them in his mind, and his brain has prepared him for what's to come. For most of us, procrastination and self-doubt are the biggest barriers to productivity. We often hesitate before starting because we are consumed with what ifs. What if we fail? What if it's too hard? What if we don't have enough time? Goggins' approach to visualization addresses these doubts head-on. When faced with a daunting task, instead of avoiding it or letting the fear of failure stop him, he imagines himself succeeding. This mental rehearsal gives him confidence and clarity. It's not just about imagining success in the abstract, but about mentally going through every step, seeing how he'll tackle each obstacle, and reinforcing the belief that he can achieve his goal. By focusing on the process rather than the outcome, visualization allows Goggins to bypass the mental traps that typically lead to procrastination. It helps him stay focused on the next step instead of worrying about the big picture. But visualization alone isn't enough. It's a tool that needs to be paired with positive reinforcement to truly reshape the mind. Goggins uses a method he calls positive self-talk. When things get tough, when his body is exhausted and his mind is telling him to quit, he combats the negativity with affirmations. He reminds himself of his strength, his perseverance, and his ability to push through discomfort. This self-talk serves as a mental reset, helping him refocus and regain motivation. It's a critical strategy for those of us who tend to get overwhelmed by challenges. Often, we focus on what we can't do or how difficult something is, which only amplifies feelings of inadequacy and procrastination. Positive self-talk is about flipping the script, focusing on what you can do and reaffirming your capability to succeed. In the world of time management and productivity, mental reinforcement is just as important as physical effort. For those who struggle with procrastination, it's easy to put off tasks that feel difficult or unpleasant. But when you train your mind to see those tasks as challenges to conquer, rather than obstacles to avoid, your approach to time management changes. Instead of thinking, "This is too much," or "I don't feel like doing this," you start to think, "I can handle this, and I will finish it." This mindset shift doesn't just make tasks easier, it makes them feel more rewarding. The more you practice positive self-talk and visualization, the more ingrained these strategies become in your routine. Over time, they become second nature, helping you push through procrastination without even thinking about it. It's also worth noting that the mind doesn't operate in isolation. The environment you create for yourself plays a significant role in whether you succeed or fall into distractions. Goggins talks about the importance of shaping your surroundings to reinforce your mental training. For example, if you want to improve your productivity, you need to create a space that fosters focus and motivation. This could mean eliminating distractions, setting clear goals, or surrounding yourself with positive influences. For Goggins, his physical environment, whether it's during a race or while training, acts as a reflection of his mental state. By controlling the environment, he reinforces his mental toughness, ensuring that the external world doesn't derail his internal focus. This same principle applies to time management. If your environment is cluttered or filled with distractions, it's harder to maintain focus and momentum. By making small adjustments to your workspace, you can enhance your ability to stay on task and remain productive. Training the mind isn't a one-time event, it's an ongoing process. Goggins' success didn't come overnight. It's the result of years of mental conditioning, visualizing success, and reinforcing positive beliefs. When he faces a challenge, whether it's running an ultramarathon or enduring Navy SEAL training, he's not relying on pure willpower alone. He's relying on a well-trained mind that knows how to focus, how to push through pain, and how to remain calm under pressure. The key takeaway here is that we all have the ability to train our minds to work for us, not against us. It's a matter of consistently practicing mental toughness, visualizing success, and reinforcing positive beliefs. If you're looking to improve your productivity and overcome procrastination, start with your mind. Shift your thoughts from self-doubt to self-belief. Visualize success before diving into any task, and use positive reinforcement to push through moments of weakness. The more you practice these mental strategies, the more natural they'll become. Over time, your mind will become your greatest asset, helping you achieve not just your goals, but your full potential. Chapter 8. Failure and Success. In Chapter 8 of Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins delves into a crucial lesson that many of us struggle to grasp. Failure is not the end. In fact, failure is often just the beginning, a necessary stepping stone on the path to success. For Goggins, failure was a constant companion throughout his journey, but instead of seeing it as a sign to quit, he learned to embrace it as a powerful tool for growth. His story is a testament to the idea that perseverance, more than anything, is what separates those who succeed from those who give up. This mindset is not just about pushing through the challenges that come with physical endurance but applies to any area of life, especially in terms of time management, productivity, and overcoming procrastination. Goggins recounts several instances where failure could have easily derailed his dreams. Early on, when he was trying to join the Navy SEALs, he failed not once, but multiple times. His body wasn't prepared for the intense physical demands, and his mind wasn't always ready to withstand the relentless stress. Yet, each failure did not crush his spirit. Instead, it fueled his desire to succeed even more. He recognized that failure wasn't a personal attack, it was simply feedback. It showed him where he needed to improve, what weaknesses he had to address, and which mental barriers stood in his way. The lesson here is that failure is not an obstacle, it's a guide. Each failure teaches you something valuable that you can apply to future efforts. In terms of time management, many people fail to start tasks because they fear failing at them. They put things off because they worry they won't meet their own expectations. But failure doesn't mean the task is too difficult. It means you've found an area that requires improvement, and now you can adjust your approach and keep moving forward. This approach to failure is particularly important for those who struggle with procrastination. One of the reasons people procrastinate is because they're afraid of failing. They wait for the perfect moment, the ideal conditions, or the right mood to begin. But Goggins' approach shows that failure isn't something to avoid, it's something to accept and learn from. The key is to take action, even if you don't feel fully prepared, because that's where growth happens. Instead of letting the fear of failure paralyze you, use it as an opportunity to learn and adapt. The more you expose yourself to failure, the more you build resilience, and eventually, failure becomes less scary. As Goggins points out, failure isn't the end. It's just part of the process. When you fail, it's not an indication that you're incapable. It's a sign that you're on the right track, learning and evolving. The process of learning from failure is not always easy. In fact, it's often uncomfortable. When Goggins faced failure, he didn't retreat or make excuses. He confronted it head-on, asking himself what went wrong and how he could do better next time. This mindset shift is crucial when it comes to productivity and time management. Instead of viewing setbacks as reasons to quit or procrastinate, view them as valuable learning experiences. Each failure provides feedback on how to improve your approach. For example, if a project falls behind schedule, instead of blaming external factors or your own shortcomings, take a moment to analyze the situation. What went wrong? Did you underestimate the time it would take? Did distractions get in the way? Identifying these issues can help you refine your process and avoid similar mistakes in the future. Failure is an opportunity to assess, reassess, and adjust your approach. Another important point Goggins makes is that failure is not something to be feared but something to be expected, especially when you are pushing yourself beyond your limits. When you set ambitious goals, whether they're fitness-related, career-oriented, or personal, failure will inevitably be part of the equation. But the key is to not let it define you. Rather than giving in to self-doubt, Goggins urges us to view failure as a necessary part of the growth process. In the context of time management, this could mean understanding that some days will be less productive than others, or that certain tasks will take longer than anticipated. These failures are not signs that you should give up on your goals or give in to procrastination. They are simply bumps in the road that give you valuable information on how to move forward. Goggins' relentless pursuit of success, despite repeated failures, demonstrates the importance of maintaining a growth mindset. It's about shifting your perspective from seeing failure as something negative to seeing it as an opportunity for growth. This approach is incredibly powerful when it comes to productivity and overcoming procrastination. Often, we procrastinate because we fear failure or don't believe in our ability to succeed. But if we start to view failure as a necessary part of the process, it becomes less daunting. The key is to keep moving forward, to persist in the face of obstacles, and to use each setback as an opportunity to improve. In practical terms, This means that when you encounter a roadblock in your work or a setback in your goals, instead of retreating or putting things off, you should dig deeper. Ask yourself what went wrong, what you can learn from the situation, and how you can apply those lessons moving forward. This mentality will not only help you overcome procrastination, but also build resilience. The more you experience failure and persevere, the stronger your resolve becomes. It's about conditioning your mind to embrace the process rather than obsessing over the outcome. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it, adjusting your approach, and never quitting. David Goggins' story is a powerful reminder that failure isn't an end. It's a part of the process, an inevitable and essential part of the journey toward success. Whether you're working toward a personal goal, striving for career advancement, or simply trying to improve your time management, the principle remains the same. Failure is a tool, not a roadblock. By embracing failure, learning from it, and continuing to move forward, you'll build the resilience and determination necessary to succeed. Keep pushing, keep learning, and remember that every failure brings you one step closer to success. Chapter 9. Uncommon Among the Uncommon. In Chapter 9 of Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins dives into the concept of striving to be uncommon among the uncommon. This powerful idea challenges us to go beyond the baseline level of excellence and reach a standard that exceeds even the expectations of the most elite individuals in our fields. Goggins describes his time in the Navy SEALs and other elite training environments, where the competition wasn't just fierce, it was extraordinary. The individuals around him were already exceptional, each bringing their own unique talents and strengths. But rather than seeing this as an obstacle, Goggins used it as motivation to push even further, setting a new standard for what it meant to excel. This mindset, he argues, is critical for anyone who wants to break through their limitations and reach a level of performance that sets them apart, no matter how high the bar may be. The core message here is about never settling, even when surrounded by those who are already top-tier performers. It's easy to assume that once you've reached a level of success or competence, you can relax and coast. But Goggins shows us that true greatness is about continually setting new goals, even when you've already exceeded the expectations of others. For time management and productivity, this means constantly refining your approach to tasks, projects, and your personal habits, no matter how successful you may have been in the past. Even if you're already working harder than most or achieving more than your peers, it's not enough. You should always be striving to elevate your performance to the next level. Goggins stresses that growth comes from putting yourself in positions where you're consistently challenged, and that means doing more than just meeting the basic expectations of your job or your responsibilities. The idea of being uncommon among the uncommon is also deeply tied to the concept of pushing beyond what others consider to be the limits. Goggins talks about the physical and mental exhaustion he faced during some of the most grueling training exercises in the world, where the pressure was not only to succeed but to outperform the top 1% of the population. In those moments, the easy path was to stop, to just meet the standard, but Goggins chose to dig deeper, to go further than anyone expected. His approach to overcoming procrastination and procrastination-like tendencies within himself was simple. If you feel like you're done, you're probably only 40% of the way there. That 40% rule became his mantra. It was a constant reminder that even when he thought he couldn't go any further, he still had the strength to push past his mental barriers. This principle has a direct correlation to productivity. In the same way, many of us stop working when we hit fatigue or frustration, mistakenly thinking we've given all we have. But if we adopt Goggins' mindset, we realize that even in moments of struggle, we can push through the resistance and find untapped reservoirs of energy and focus. In many ways, this concept applies directly to how we approach tasks, projects, and the concept of time itself. People often set limits for themselves, thinking, "I've worked enough today," or "I can't focus any longer." These limits are often self-imposed and based on comfort, and they stand in the way of greater productivity. By pushing beyond the baseline and learning how to perform at a higher level, even under pressure or fatigue, you can reprogram your mind to increase your productivity significantly. This doesn't mean you have to push yourself into unhealthy extremes. Instead, it's about breaking free from the comfort zone, recognizing that the ability to push through discomfort and exhaustion is what separates the elite from the rest. Time management in this context becomes a matter of not just working for the sake of working, but maximizing every moment, every task, by approaching them with the mindset that you can always do more, even when you feel like you've given all you've got. There's a lesson here that applies to overcoming procrastination as well. When you set high standards for yourself, even in the face of adversity, you make excuses and procrastination less viable. Procrastination often arises from the fear of not measuring up or the desire to avoid discomfort. But when you embrace the challenge, when you step up to the opportunity to show what you're really capable of, procrastination loses its hold. When you commit to becoming uncommon among the uncommon, the idea of putting off a task seems irrelevant. Whether the task is difficult or requires intense focus, you're no longer concerned with the obstacles in the way. Instead, you're focused on taking the next step toward your goal, no matter how hard it is. Goggins also emphasizes the importance of setting audacious goals, even when surrounded by those who are already performing at their best. It's easy to look around and think, everyone here is already at the top. What can I contribute? But Goggins shows us that the difference between good and great is the willingness to put in that extra effort. It's about the consistent, small improvements you make every day, even when it feels like you've already reached your peak. This means approaching every challenge with the mindset that you can always give more. Whether it's pushing through a challenging workday, staying disciplined in your routines, or going the extra mile to exceed your own expectations, it's this constant drive for excellence that sets the true high performers apart. By adopting this approach to time management and productivity, you move away from a mindset of doing just enough to get by and embrace a mentality of constantly striving for better, even when success seems guaranteed. At the end of the day, the lesson Goggins teaches us is clear. There's always room to improve, always another level to reach, no matter how far you've come. This is true for personal growth, productivity, and any other area of life. When you commit to being the best in a room full of greatness, you develop a mindset that continually seeks out challenges, tackles them head-on, and refuses to settle for mediocrity. In practical terms, it's about approaching each day with the relentless belief that you can do better than you did yesterday. Time management, productivity, and overcoming procrastination all require this mentality, consistently pushing beyond your current limits to reach new heights, even when surrounded by those who are already at the top of their game. Chapter 10. The Empowerment of Failure. In Chapter 10 of Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins challenges the common perception of failure. Instead of seeing failure as something to avoid or a mark of inadequacy, he reframes it as a necessary part of the process, one that is crucial for personal growth and progress. For Goggins, failure is not a setback, but a stepping stone. He emphasizes that the most significant growth happens when we face challenges head-on and when we learn to see failure as an opportunity to improve, refine our strategies, and come back even stronger. His perspective on failure isn't just about acknowledging it, it's about actively seeking it out in the pursuit of growth. Goggins believes that when we fail, we expose our weaknesses and limitations, but we also gain the chance to address them directly. It's an invitation to strengthen both our mental and physical capacities, a catalyst that propels us forward on our journey of improvement. This shift in perspective is essential for overcoming procrastination, improving time management, and boosting productivity. Too often, we put off important tasks or challenge ourselves with difficult goals because we fear failure. The possibility of not succeeding keeps us paralyzed, stuck in a cycle of inaction. We think that avoiding failure will somehow protect us from judgment or disappointment, but in reality, it's the avoidance of failure that holds us back from reaching our potential. Goggins makes the case that if you're not failing, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. The fear of failure keeps us complacent, but failure itself, when approached the right way, is what helps us level up. In terms of time management, productivity, and achieving goals, failure isn't something to dread. It's something to embrace as part of the process of becoming more effective and efficient. Every time we stumble, we learn something new, and that knowledge is a key piece of the puzzle in reaching our ultimate goals. In Goggins' world, failure isn't just a random event that happens from time to time. It's an integral part of the path toward success. He recalls times when he faced setbacks, whether in physical challenges like ultramarathons or in military training. Each time he encountered failure, he didn't allow himself to be discouraged or defeated. Instead, he used it as an opportunity to analyze what went wrong, make adjustments, and push forward. This resilience is exactly what makes Goggins' approach to failure so powerful. He doesn't give up at the first sign of failure. He uses it as a tool to refine his strategy and sharpen his resolve. This is a mindset that can be applied to any area of life, whether you're managing your time, working through a project, or aiming for personal goals. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to get discouraged and give in to frustration. But by shifting your perspective to see failure as an opportunity, you become more likely to adjust, learn, and keep moving forward rather than letting procrastination take hold. Time management often suffers when we fear failure. We procrastinate, put off tasks, and delay the inevitable because we're worried we won't succeed. This fear can extend to tasks that feel too big or too difficult, causing us to shrink from taking action at all. But if we adopt Goggins' approach, failure becomes a natural part of our productivity cycle. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment to act, we start taking action right away, understanding that mistakes and failures are just part of the journey. Procrastination loses its power when we stop trying to avoid failure and instead embrace it as a learning experience. We start making progress, regardless of how small, because every action, whether it's a success or a failure, is a step closer to our goal. This mindset frees us from the paralysis that often comes with perfectionism and allows us to focus on consistent effort rather than obsessing over avoiding failure at all costs. Moreover, Goggins stresses that failure isn't just about physical challenges, it applies to mental and emotional growth as well. He shares how he struggled with mental blocks, insecurities, and self-doubt throughout his life. But rather than allowing these failures to define him, he saw them as opportunities to confront his deepest fears and weaknesses. Overcoming these emotional failures was just as important to his development as conquering physical obstacles. This is a vital lesson when it comes to time management and productivity. Often, we procrastinate not just because of a fear of failing at the task itself, but because we are afraid of confronting our own limitations or insecurities. It's easier to avoid tackling something challenging than to face the discomfort of not knowing how to do it well. But just like Goggins overcame his personal struggles by facing them head-on, we can grow by confronting the emotional barriers that prevent us from making progress. Embracing failure as part of the process, rather than avoiding it, allows us to develop a more resilient mindset, which in turn enables us to be more productive and effective. The key takeaway from this chapter is that failure, when viewed through the right lens, is not something to avoid but something to seek out as part of the path to greatness. Failure doesn't signify the end, it's merely a pause, a moment to reassess, regroup, and come back even stronger. If you look at failure as an opportunity to grow, your mindset shifts from one of fear to one of opportunity. You begin to see every failure as a chance to refine your strategy, improve your approach, and build the resilience needed to keep moving forward. This is an essential practice for developing both mental toughness and time management skills. Every task, every project, and every challenge presents a chance to learn and grow, regardless of the outcome. And once you start treating failure as a necessary and empowering part of the process, procrastination and fear will lose their grip on your productivity, and you'll find yourself achieving more than you ever thought possible. Chapter 11. What if? In Chapter 11 of Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins asks a question that resonates deeply. What if? It's a question that can haunt us if we let it linger, but it's also one that can spark profound change if we use it to motivate ourselves. Goggins challenges us to imagine what our lives could look like if we pushed ourselves to the limit, if we gave everything we had to our goals without hesitation, without fear, and without procrastination. The what if question is a powerful tool for overcoming the complacency that keeps us stuck. It's easy to get caught in the routine of life, day after day, moving through tasks without truly challenging ourselves or reaching for something greater. But by constantly asking ourselves, what if I gave it my all? We can break through that mental barrier and start taking action. The question isn't just about imagining success, it's about confronting the idea of regret. How many times have we caught ourselves wondering, what if I had tried harder? Or what if I had given more? Those unasked questions become the seeds of regret, and they hold us back from taking the kind of bold action needed to achieve greatness. Procrastination thrives on the what if question, but in a negative light. It feeds on our fears and doubts, telling us that we might fail or that we're not good enough. It holds us back from fully committing to our work, goals, and dreams. But when we flip the script and use the what if question as a challenge to push ourselves beyond our limits, it becomes a powerful motivator. We begin to recognize that the cost of inaction is greater than the fear of failure. The real regret is not in failing, it's in not trying at all. Goggins' own story is a testament to the power of this mindset. He didn't succeed overnight. In fact, he faced failure time and time again. Yet, every time he encountered an obstacle, he asked himself, what if I gave it everything I've got? And used that question to fuel his relentless drive to keep moving forward. Whether it was in the brutal training to become a Navy SEAL or pushing through ultramarathons, Goggins didn't let himself off the hook. He faced each challenge with the mindset that his potential was far beyond what he had already accomplished, and by constantly asking, what if, he made the decision to never settle for less than his best. This kind of mindset is essential for anyone who wants to overcome procrastination, boost productivity, and achieve their most ambitious goals. It's not enough to simply have the desire to do something. You have to put in the work, and you have to show up day after day with the question, what if I give it everything I've got, driving your actions. For many of us, procrastination is a result of fear. The fear of not succeeding, the fear of falling short, or the fear of not being enough. When we face tasks that seem insurmountable or goals that appear out of reach, it's easy to put them off, to push them to the back of our minds where we don't have to confront them. But procrastination only makes the question of what if louder and more painful. The longer we wait, the more we wonder about what could have been, and the more we spiral into regret. But the antidote to this is to take action. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment or for everything to align perfectly, Goggins advocates for stepping forward and doing the work, no matter how daunting it may seem. If you constantly ask yourself, what if I gave it everything I have, right now? You will find the motivation to push through the fear and resistance, and you'll be much more likely to succeed. One of the key aspects of the what if question is the idea of living without regret. Goggins urges us not to let our lives end with unanswered what ifs. This is especially true when it comes to time management. Every minute we spend procrastinating is a minute we'll never get back, and when we look back on our lives, it's the time we wasted that we'll regret the most. Time management isn't just about getting things done. It's about making the most of the time we have and living without looking back on missed opportunities. By using the what if question to fuel our actions, we start making the most of every moment, focusing on what we can do now instead of what we could have done in the past. This mindset shift helps us prioritize our time better, tackle tasks with urgency, and push ourselves beyond what we thought was possible. This principle applies not only to work and productivity but also to personal growth. Goggins has consistently pushed himself beyond the norm, constantly testing his limits in physical challenges and mental endurance. By asking himself, what if I pushed just a little harder? Or what if I dug a little deeper? He was able to achieve feats that most people would deem impossible. When you adopt this mindset in your own life, you start to see that the limits you've set for yourself are often self-imposed. You begin to realize that you are capable of far more than you think, and the what if question becomes an invitation to explore that untapped potential. Whether it's a fitness goal, a career aspiration, or a personal project, you start to approach it with the belief that you have what it takes to succeed, if only you're willing to give it everything you've got. Ultimately, Goggins teaches us that the what if question is a call to action. It's not just about imagining what could be. It's about taking responsibility for your actions and making sure that when the end of your life comes, you have no regrets. You won't wonder, what if I had done more? Or what if I had tried harder? Because you'll know you gave it your all. And that kind of fulfillment, the peace that comes from knowing you did everything you could, is what allows you to look back on your life with pride instead of regret. So, the next time procrastination creeps in or the fear of failure starts to take hold, remember Goggins' challenge. What if I gave it everything I've got? And use that question to propel yourself into action. In Chapter 11, What If?, David Goggins urges readers to push past doubt and regret by asking, "What if?" He challenges us to imagine our fullest potential, emphasizing that true growth comes from giving everything we have, without holding back, and never letting life end with unanswered questions.